So up next, I would like to introduce Seless Radanke.
Hi! Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Good. I'm Seless Radanke. I'm the Talent Development Program Manager for MNGI, and that's just a long title, and it means I do leadership stuff at MNGI. And I don't do it alone. I do it with someone else. And I'm super excited to be here today to talk with you about this, the unexpected power of potential, and my thoughts about that. But first, a little bit about me. I don't want to brag because I've heard a number of really cool kinds of hobbies like triathlons and coral reefing. I'm a knitting ninja, just so you know that, right? And I know Heather over here is one as well. I love my dogs, I love my kids, I love my coffee, sometimes in that order, sometimes not, it just kind of depends. And I also, by the way, love leadership. I'm one of those nerds that reads leadership books on the weekends. Am I alone in doing that? You can put your hands up if you read, it's okay, right? Good. I've been with MNGI, this is my 27th year, and I know what you're all thinking, you don't look old enough to have been there 27 years, but it's true. And I've been there in the capacity of a staff member, I've been a leader, and I've led leaders. And the one thing that I've really kind of recognized, and I'm sure all of you have as well, is that leadership skills are really life skills, right? They're very conversant. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about a coworker of mine. Her name is Olivia. She's a MNGI employee. And by the way, this is full disclosure, this is actually not Olivia, this is a stock photo, but you get the point, right? So Olivia and I got to know each other when we were on a committee quite a few years ago. And I found her to just be super outgoing, vivacious, very intelligent, creative, all the great things. And the more I got to know her, the more she shared with me, the more she talked about how she wanted to grow, both inside MNGI in her career, and outside of MNGI with some things she was thinking of doing there. So she had all these really great characteristics and traits, right? But she was missing two things. She was missing self-confidence, and she was missing the ability to do those things at that point. We launched our Emerging Leadership Program a number of years after that, and when we did, I encouraged her to apply. I thought it'd be something she'd be interested in, and she definitely was. So she applied. She was accepted, and she was part of the program. And this is not for your mama kind of leadership program. This is a 1-year, all in, all kinds of core leadership functions over the course of an entire year with a cohort model. So you learn a lot of stuff. And guess what happened at the end of that year? She found her confidence. She found her voice. She found her place at the table. And all of those things, by the way, she also got a promotion. She found herself as a leader of people. And all of those things I would expect to see, right, as from a leadership or learning and development, you'd expect to see that. Someone said earlier that behavior is that change in behavior, that's learning. You could see that change in behavior in her. What I did not expect, and actually which is even more important, is how readily she shared the leadership lessons that she learned with the people in her sphere of influence, the people around her. And a lot of the things that people were talking about today, you'll hear again. It just resonates, right? How many times have we heard over the presentations today? Connection, a big one. Reaching out to people, passion, community, those types of things. So for Olivia, she shared her passion about leadership and some of her skills, by the way, with her son, who is an Eagle Scout, and was trying to work with other Eagle Scouts on a project. And it was a bit like, in her words, herding cats, right? He just didn't have the skills at that age to be able to kind of coordinate all those things. But she did. She understood leadership, development, she understood delegation, and project management. So she helped mentor him so that he could take those lessons forward and make that a successful project. She also had a daughter that started college last fall and was going into her first foray with living with other people. How fun is that? Your first time, right? And she wasn't sure how to navigate these conversations that you have with people you live with, these brand new college roommates. And Olivia has some interpersonal communication skill knowledge, so she was able to help her daughter work through some of those. She's also, as I mentioned, a people leader, so she works with her staff on a daily basis, coaching and mentoring, because she, of all people, understands how far you can go if you have that potential and if you have that drive, and by the way, if somebody helps you get there. She also is part of a small group at church, which she loves most of the time, except when there's that one or two people with the big voices that kind of take over. I'm sure none of you have had that experience, right? Let's be honest, at least one of you in here is one of those people who takes it over. So she had a doorway to help that person when the leader was talking to her, kind of complaining about, this is what always happens. And Olivia's like, hey, I have some education. I have some ways that you could lead this meeting more effectively, and let me share those with you. At MNGI in general, she's just a great standout example of what the power of potential looks like, right? Unexpected power potential. And here's where it sunk in, and I may be a little slow, but here's where it finally sunk into me. That's one person. That's one place and time. That's one organization. What if each one of us were to share the information that we have and expand the places and spaces where we grow leaders? And when I'm talking about places and spaces, I'm not talking about just the workspaces. Obviously, that's a big one. I'm talking about all the spaces. I'm talking about school spaces, religious spaces, community spaces, Frederickson happy hour spaces, right? These are all places to grow. And it can be unconventional. Think about, I don't know, HOA meetings, anybody? Some leadership development possibly there. How about government? Oh yeah, I said it, government. What kinds of things could we teach and learn there? That's just one person. So what kind of impact could we have if we do that? And again, we're looking at growing leaders, not managers. And there's a big difference between a leader and a manager. So today, I'm so glad that Tyler kicked us off with the reefer thing, because I'm following suit. Today I'm gonna tell you about getting lit. We're gonna get lit. I kind of want to do one of these when it's kid of the 80s, right? So getting lit, it's going to mean different things to different people in the room. But what I think of lit as something we do at MNGI organically. It's also something that I do in my personal life. And that is this: look for potential, identify opportunities and options, and then take the next step. I love this quote by Father James Keller: "A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle." How many of you have heard this before? Yeah. Some of you may be a candle. Some of you may be a raging fire of information, knowledge, coaching abilities, all kinds of things. And when you share that with someone else, it takes nothing from you. What it does, though, is it ignites something in somebody else that they can then pass on to someone else and someone else and so on. And what that does just brightens the future for every single one of us. Now, I could stand up here for the rest of the afternoon and give you some data points and statistics that prove the empirical evidence of why it's important that you should grow the places and spaces where you grow leaders. How many of you are data people? Yeah, sorry, you guys are out of luck today. We're not doing that. And we're not doing it for two reasons. Because one, it's Wednesday afternoon at 2? Nobody wants data points at this point in statistics. And then the second point is, it doesn't matter. Because it all comes down to this: the humanity of each individual person. This is your opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. Could be a little difference, could be a huge difference. Think about the people that did that for you over the course of your life. And again, not talking just workspaces, talking all the spaces. This is your opportunity to pay it forward. Connection. and community. Dr. Vivek Murthy, he's the US Surgeon General, said that the United States is in a loneliness public health crisis bordering on an epidemic. You want to know the number one way to combat a loneliness epidemic? Connection. How many times have we heard that word today? It plays over and over. It's important. Connections and building community. How about confidence? Building someone else's confidence. I want you to think about a time in your life, personal or professional, doesn't matter, when someone came to you with something big, and they said, you really should try this. You should do this. And you thought, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to do this. This is way outside of my comfort zone. Have you lost your ever-loving mind? No. And guess what you did? You did it anyway. And it wasn't perfect, but it opened the door. It gave you that confidence to reach through and do other things that you thought were too big, other things you thought you could not do. Who's the public speaker person? Didn't want to public speak? I'm going to ask you to speak publicly now. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. I'll tell you what, the first time I gave a public speech, I threw up in the bathroom before. It was terrifying. And now, you know what? I love it because it's a conversation. This isn't a presentation where I'm up here. This is a conversation between us. Increasing someone's confidence. Passion. I've got to call on Tyler and his coral reef because we've already heard from a couple people about going to get a coral reef. Tell me where I need to go. Tell me more information about this. So how many of you maybe came in this morning thinking, I'm going to get me a coral reef this weekend. I'm going to go do some research and figure out how this works. Probably maybe one of you, other than Tyler, probably one of you, right? How many of you, by show of hands, are now interested in learning more about coral reefs besides me? Because they're absolutely, look at this. That is the power of sharing and growing. It can give a passion for something you didn't even know was there. I didn't know coral reefs even existed other than in the oceans. I had no idea they were an animal. You can create a new passion or a pathway for someone by sharing your story and your experience. My absolute favorite, though, is outcomes. So why do we want to do this? Because early interventions make for great outcomes. How many people in here are familiar with the Crucial Conversations book, learning, all that kind of stuff? About half. I, pardon my French, freaking love it. It is the best learning thing that I've ever had. It's what I needed 30 years ago as a new leader. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a construct, it's a framework about how to have really difficult conversations. I'm not talking, you didn't take the garbage out again conversations. I'm talking big conversations in a much more effective manner, and it works. It works. So think about this. What if you would have had that skill set, you would have understood that framework in high school? How much better would that "it's me, it's not you" breakup conversation have gone? Right? Or how about family holidays with political talk? How about that? We don't have the skills necessarily because they're not innate. We're not given those skills. We have to learn those skills from others. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about how you actually go about getting lit. First thing is you're going to look for potential. Meet people where they are and help them get to where they want to go. How many of you are parents in the room? Okay, I'm talking to you guys. I am a parent. This is why I'm talking to all of us. It's helping people get where they want to go, not where you think they should go. Right? But in some cases, you have to make them go there anyway. I'm just going to say that. So if you know a 15-year-old kid in your sphere of influence, maybe it's a neighbor kid, maybe it's a nephew, maybe it's somebody on your kid's baseball team, and this kid wants to run for student council, but has never spoken publicly other than when they've been called out in class. They've never run a campaign. They've never put a concise, effective message together to get that message out to their peers. But what if you have? What if you've done some of those things? What if you could help coach that kid to get to where they wanted to go? The other end of the spectrum, think about a VP of people management. This person is a phenomenal strategist, a visionary, but maybe not so good with interpersonal people skills. They see their engagement scores for their department, and they want to do better. They're just not really sure how to do that, right? And that may be something that you can do. You can help, you can coach. The second component is to identify opportunities and options. So where are the spaces that we can have these types of conversations? My favorites are the pre and post meetings. Do you know what those are? Yeah, some of you are giggling, you know. It's the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting, right? It's the 5 to 7 minutes on either side of that that people are either coming in the room, they're coming on the Zoom, or leaving the room, or leaving the Zoom. And it's that organic type of conversation. Hey, how you doing? How are you doing this thing with that thing that we're supposed to be doing by Friday that I haven't started? Those types of conversations, that is some magic space right there. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a work space. You could be sitting in a ballpark. You could be sitting on a soccer field in one of Minnesota's 87, feels like 115 humid days. And it could be the person next to you in the audience that you're just chatting with. Learning more about people, finding out what those opportunities are. It could be a friend of yours who's struggling to articulate a specific point with their partner or with their children. And maybe you know a thing or two about effective communication, how to get that across. It could also be, where's that going with this? See, this is what happens when you get 50 people. It just happens. Okay, I'm good there. Oh, I know what it is. What about, you guys, it's the best thing in the whole presentation. What about spaces like, I don't know, the Frederickson Leadership or the Frederickson Learning Leadership Summit at a table with people you don't know? How about that being a place where you could have some opportunity? And the third part is really to take the next step. And at MNGI, I have a colleague with me here today. I know she feels this way professionally and personally as well. What you do needs to matter. And people need to be able to take that information and do something with it. Not every time, not all the time, but make sure that what you're providing is meaningful for them. Not just because you want to talk about it. Meaningful for them. Sustainable. Is it something, like, we have a year-long leadership program. Some companies are like, we got a 5-year leadership program. And some other companies are like, we have a 2-week one because we can't support that. It's sustainability. Where can you support that? And then inspirational, where it can be. How many of you have had a situation, personal or professional, where someone inspired you to do something different, to go beyond where you thought you could go, and the only reason you did it was because they told you you could? Yeah, we've all had that experience. And taking the next step can be something little. It can be having a conversation. It can be sitting at lunch with a colleague, and they're talking about, I need to find a way to get some more concrete boundaries with my department, with my direct reports. And you're like, I just struggled with that a couple years ago. I've got some great tools. I've got some great books. There's a great website you can do that will help you. By the way, we all know a good coach now, don't we? Who just does triathlons? She could help you. It could be something that small. It could also be something as big as writing a proposal for a new product line, a new position, a new program. It just varies. But the one thing it's going to ask you to do, potentially, is get out of your comfort zone. And with this, I will challenge you over the next 30 days, you know where I'm going with this, to get lit. Look for potential. Identify opportunities and options, and then take the next step. Thank you very much. It's been great to be here.